The fields outside the city were red, not with poppies, with people. By the time the sun cleared the horizon, a whole stretch of villages had simply gone quiet. No smoke, no voices, nothing moving for miles but her. And the thing standing in the middle of all that ruin, breathing slow, blood drying gold on her fur. That was not a demon. It was not some monster that crawled up out of the dark. She was a goddess, their goddess, the most beautiful in all of Egypt. The gods had made her. They had sent her down to the earth themselves, and now, watching from the sky, every one of them felt the same cold thing move through their chests at the same moment. They had no idea how to call her back. This is the story of Sekhmet, the goddess who was sent to punish humanity and very nearly erased it. The morning the gods of Egypt looked down at what they had set loose and understood far too late that they had built a weapon even they could not switch off. Stay with me, because the way they finally stopped her is one of the strangest things in any mythology on earth. And it begins, of all places, with a tired old man. Picture the sun god, Ra. We imagine him blazing and eternal, far above being touched by anything. But in the oldest tellings the Egyptians had, Ra grew old. The myth says it without blinking. His bones had turned to silver, his flesh had turned to gold, his hair had gone the deep blue of lapis stone. He was the first king of Egypt, God and Pharaoh in one body. And he was ancient, and people talk when a king gets old. Down in the mortal world, the whispering started. The old man on the throne is weak now. Look at his hands shake. Why should we still kneel? The whispers harden into words, and the words harden into a plot. Humanity, the very people Ra had made with his own light, were quietly planning to drag their creator off his throne. Ra heard all of it. The sun sees everything. But he did not come down in a blaze of fire, the way you might expect. He did something quieter, and in the end far more terrible. He called a council. In secret, in the dead of night, so that mankind would not catch wind of it, he gathered the eldest gods around him, and he asked them a single question. What do I do? The answer they gave him would drown the desert in blood. It was Nun, the oldest god of all, the dark water the world was born from, who gave the counsel. Send your eye against them, he said, and Ra agreed. Now, you have to understand what the eye of Ra actually is, because this is where it turns. The eye is not just an eye. It is a piece of the sun god himself, his raw power pulled out and given a will and a body of its own. And almost always, that power took the shape of a woman. Usually she was Hathor, the goddess of love, of music and dancing and wine and joy. The single warmest, gentlest face in the entire Egyptian sky. That is who Ra sent down to do the killing. And the moment her feet touched the earth and she took up his sentence against mankind, gentle Hathor changed into something the world had never seen before. She became a lioness, enormous, golden, eyes like two hot coals, and she took a new name to go with the new shape. Sekhmet. It means simply the powerful. The Egyptians had other names for her too, and you can feel them flinch as they say them. Lady of Slaughter, she who mauls, the mistress of dread. Hold on to those names, because by the time this story's done, I promise you are going to see her completely differently. And if you want more of these, the real myths with their teeth still in them, not the watered down versions, then subscribe and stay with me. It costs nothing, and there's a new one every week. Now, what Sekhmet did next, the myth does not soften, so I won't either. She did not just punish them, she waded into them, and somewhere in it, she discovered that she liked it, the heat of the blood. The taste of it. Everything tender that had made her Hathor went quiet, and in its place was a hunger that drinking only sharpened. She killed until the guilty were gone, and then she raised her head, and she looked out at the rest of the world. The other villages and the other people, the innocent ones who had plotted nothing, and she started walking toward them. She was not going to stop at the guilty. She was going to finish all of it, every human being alive. And here is the turn that makes this story dig in and stay. Ra looked down at what he had sent into the world, and his heart broke. Sit with that for a second. These were the people who had schemed to overthrow him. He had every right in the world to his anger. but watching his own daughter, his own power, paint the desert red in his name, the old king did not feel satisfied. He felt sick. He wanted them to live. Even now, even after the betrayal, after the plot, he looked down at humanity, and what he wanted, more than anything, was to save them. There was only one problem, and it was an enormous one. He couldn't. You cannot call back a weapon once it has tasted blood. Sekhmet was his eye, his own strength, walking the earth on its own 4 legs now, and she was long past listening to anyone, even him. He called to her. She did not so much as turn her head. Think about how that feels. The most powerful god in all of Egypt, the one who lifts the sun into the sky every single morning, gave a direct order to his own creation, and his own creation ignored him completely. By the next dawn, she would wake and finish what she had started. He had one night to save the human race. So Ra stopped trying to win by force. A god who cannot overpower the thing he made has only one move left. He got clever. And what he does next is, honestly, my favorite turn in any myth I have ever told on this channel. So if you are enjoying this one, do me a small favor and tap that like button. It genuinely helps these old stories find new people. All right, here is how you stop a goddess. Ra sent messengers racing south, all the way to Elephantine at the edge of the kingdom, and he sent them for one thing: red ochre, a deep red mineral pulled from the earth, the color of rust, the color of dried blood. And while they ran, he put the women of the temple to work at the brewing vats. Beer, ordinary barley beer, vat after vat after vat of it. And into every single batch they poured the red ochre, and they stirred until the whole brew went thick and dark and red as an open wound. 7,000 jars, the story says. 7,000. All through that night, they carried it out into the fields, out to the exact patch of desert where Sekhmet lay sleeping off the day's killing, the precise place she would wake to begin her final morning. And they poured. They flooded the ground with it until it pooled 3 hands deep, a vast lake of red stretching all the way out to the horizon, sitting there and gleaming in the first gray light before dawn. Then they waited. The sun came up, and Sekhmet rose with it, ready to wash the last of the world away in red. And she found the world already red. She looked out across that enormous crimson flood, more red than even she had spilled, laid out everywhere she could see, and she thought it was blood. She thought she had already won. So the mistress of dread lowered her great head to the ground, and she drank. She drank the way she had killed, without stopping, without thinking. She drank until the fields began to drain, and the lioness in her went soft and slow and warm. She drank until the whole world tilted and swam in front of her, until, if a single human had walked right up in front of her, she could not have caught it to save her life. And the rage simply drained out of her, gulp by gulp by gulp. By the time the sun stood full in the sky, Sekhmet, Lady of Slaughter, she who mauls, the terror the gods themselves could not switch off, was nothing more than hopelessly, harmlessly drunk. The killing was over. Humanity did not survive its judgment day because a hero stood up and beat the monster. Hear me on this. There was no hero. The human race is still here for one reason. Their god got the monster drunk. But this is the part I really want you to sit with. The part that makes Sekhmet one of the most unsettling figures in all of mythology, and one of the most honest. When the red wore off, she changed back. The lioness softened, and standing there in the morning light was Hathor again. Love and music and wine. Because they had never been 2 goddesses fighting for one body. They were always only one. The Egyptians did not look away from that the way we might want to. They knew the goddess of love and the goddess of slaughter were the same being, wearing 2 faces, and they built their faith around exactly that fact, instead of hiding it. Every year they held a festival, and we know its name. The Festival of Drunkenness, thousands of people drinking themselves senseless inside her temples on purpose to remember the night the world was saved by a goddess too drunk to end it. Pure joy and pure terror folded into a single ceremony, because in Sekhmet they never came apart. and it runs deeper still. Sekhmet was the goddess who sent disease. The Egyptians spoke of plague as the arrows of Sekhmet, and her hot breath was the desert wind that carried fever into a house. She was the thing you were afraid of in the dark when sickness came for your child, but her priests, the people who served her in those temples, were Egypt's physicians, her doctors. The same goddess who fired the arrows was the one you begged to draw them back out. The one who sent the plague was the one who healed it. The destroyer was the cure. That is the real Sekhmet, and it is so much larger than a monster story. She is not the villain of Egyptian myth. She is not the hero either. She is the hard truth the Egyptians were brave enough to put inside a single body. That the force which protects you and the force that could wipe you out are not always opposites. Sometimes they are the very same power. It only depends which way it is turned. So let me actually ask you, because I want to know, which one do you think is the real face? The destroyer or the healer? Tell me down in the comments. I read them. The pharaohs, for their part, knew exactly which way they wanted her turned. They carried Sekhmet into war with them. They prayed for her to breathe her fire onto their enemies the way she had breathed it onto the rebels in the sand. They set her lioness face in stone at the gates of their temples to burn away anything unclean that tried to pass. And that snake you have seen rearing up on the front of a pharaoh's crown, the cobra, the uraeus. That is her, the Eye of Ra, coiled and watching, ready to spit fire at anyone who dares move against the king. For 3,000 years, the Egyptians kept her close. Not because she was safe, she was never safe, and that was the whole point. They simply understood the difference between a god you love and a god you respect. And Sekhmet, the goddess of love and of the slaughter, was both. If this is the kind of myth you want more of, the real ones, the ones with teeth, instead of the cartoon versions, then subscribe and stay with me. There's a new one every week. And if you want to meet another Egyptian power who stands on that exact same line between terror and mercy, go watch the story of Anubis next. The god the whole world calls death, who was never actually the villain we made him into. I will see you there.